How many times did you talk to Mr. MacGyver on Friday?
I honestly don't remember. Maybe 10?
You talked to him 10 times on Friday, maybe.
Maybe. I talked to him a lot.
And when you talked to him these 10 times on Friday, how many conversations did you have with him about the search that was going on in his condominium by the district attorney's office?
Twice?
When was your first conversation with him about the search?
I believe to tell him I was on my way to unlock the door.
What time would that have been?
Around 3:30, sitting in traffic, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not real sure on the time.
And what did you say to him?
I said I'm going to unlock the door so they don't break them in.
And then what did he say back to you?
Thank you.
And then what else did y'all talk about?
That was it.
And when was your second conversation with Mr. MacGyver?
Probably later that evening after you all left.
Okay. Was it before or after you talked to Mr. Maples?
I don't remember.
Okay. What did you talk about with Mr. MacGyver during the second conversation?
That the search was done, I was not happy, and that was all I really remember.
That's all you said to him?
Pretty much, and then that was it.
And then what did he say back to you?
He said, what gun? I'm sorry, that's wrong. That was on Sunday. I honestly don't remember what he said. He was at a basketball or baseball game. You could hardly hear what he was saying in the background.
Mm-hmm. So now, what you just kind of said was, what gun? And
I'm sorry, that was on Sunday.
Right. Now, let me just ask you this. Was that perhaps a Freudian slip?
No,
Did you
it
really
wasn't.
kind of say, is that really what he said on Friday?
Objection, Your Honor.
No. I did not tell him about the gun on Friday.
Stop. There's an objection.
Objection, improperly argumentative. And this is his witness.
Well, it's a witness that we're working through right now.
And for clarity, Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to claim a surprise. And I'm going to ask the court for a little bit of leeway.
You have a little bit of leeway.
Okay. Let me ask you this now. You talked to Mr. MacGyver for the first time after we left searching his condominium where we found a gun that you knew he wasn't supposed to have. Mm-hmm. And when you talked to him, you're trying to tell Judge McBurney that you never mentioned to him, hey, Tex, they found a gun in your sock drawer.
I did not tell him that.
Why?
I already answered that.
Well, you need to answer again. Why?
You told me to stay out of it.
So when did you tell Mr. Maples?
After you left.
Okay. You knew Mr. Maples was the lawyer for Mr. MacGyver, correct?
That is correct.
You didn't call Mr. Watkins and tell him, did you?
No, I did not.
Mr. Watkins is the person who represents the estate, correct?
Correct.
And you were there as the estate manager, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so why did you call this criminal defense lawyer to tell him that the DA's office found a gun in his sock drawer?
Because I thought it was the right thing to do.
The right thing to do, okay. So what did you tell Mr. Maples?
That you all found a gun in the sock drawer.
When did you tell Mr. Maples that?
Right after you left.
And then what did he say to you?
To get the gun and bring it to Janie's house.
Is that
Did you-
Ms. Calhoun?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we've covered this part.
Yeah. How many times did you talk to Mr. Maples?
I believe once.
Is that on Friday?
Yes, sir.
How many times did you talk to Mr. Maples on Saturday?
I don't think I talked to him at all on Saturday.
Okay. How about Sunday?
I did not talk to him on Sunday.
Okay. Would it surprise you to know that your phone records indicate that you had 4 phone calls with Mr. Maples for a total of about 31 minutes worth of conversations with him?
On Sunday?
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
I did not talk to Mr. Maples on Sunday.
How about Saturday?
I was at Legoland. I did not talk to him on Saturday.
Okay. So if your phone records indicated something different, you'd be really surprised about that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And do you deny to Judge McBurney that you had about 31 minutes worth of conversations with Mr. Maples over the course of that weekend? Do you deny that?
Well, if you're including Friday in a weekend, then yes, I would have talked to him. I guess you have the records.
Well, I'm asking you.
I don't know how long I talked to the man on Friday. I talked to him a couple times. I didn't log it.
Okay, I thought you said you talked to him once on Friday.
That's
How many times did you talk to him, Tammy, on Friday? How many times did you talk to him?
I believe I called him about the subpoena. He then hung up and called me back. Then I talked to him afterwards. That is what I recollect.
So how many times did you talk to Mr. Maples on Friday?
I really don't know.
Okay. Let me show you this, and maybe this will help refresh your recollection. Counsel, this is page 24 of the transcript, I believe you have, Judge.
What line are you?
I'm going to start at line 2. Question being, so that was Friday night.
Your Honor, if he's going to show it to the witness so she can refresh her recollection.
Well, it was just to direct you, counsel.
Thank you.
Take a look at line 2. If you read down to the bottom of the page, silently to yourself. And look up at me, then I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay?
Okay? Now, after having an opportunity to read that to yourself, is your memory refreshed about how many times you talked to Mr. Maples on Friday?
Sure.
Now, on Friday afternoon when we were here, how many times did you tell Judge McBurney that you talked to Mr. Maples on Friday? What did you say?
I believe the question was, did you talk to Mr. Maples again Friday night? Is what I was asked, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I
And
mean,
you said?
I said I talked to him on Friday night.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
I did talk to him on Friday night.
On line 9, read that question to yourself quietly.
Uh-huh.
I asked you on Friday, you didn't talk to him, meaning Mr. Maples, at all Friday night, and your response to Judge McBurney was what? Not afterwards, no.
Your Honor,
No.
mischaracterized the transcript. It's a response to Mr. Rutgers' question, not a question from the court.
The way I
Yeah, I
think is,
answered that on
so
Friday.
we don't
Sorry.
have to keep circling around this, is that Ms. Johnson testified on Friday that yes, she spoke to Mr. Maples Friday night to say they found a gun, but after that conversation, she did not talk to him again, which is what I heard her say today as well.
Okay.
That she spoke to him before then to say subpoena, search warrant, whatever it was. And she's also made very clear, despite what the phone records may show, that she doesn't believe she spoke to Mr. Maples on Saturday. She was at Legoland, apparently all day, and not on Sunday either.
Okay, all right.
And so somehow those two calls add up to 31 minutes.
Okay, okay. And and so just make sure we're clear, as the judge just kind of recounted, that is what you're telling us. You did not talk to Mr. Maples at all on Saturday.
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. Let me ask you this. Do you remember telling us that you talked to Sheriff Howard Seal on Sunday?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you talk to him?
Through text messages?
Okay. You didn't have a verbal phone conversation with him?
I'm not sure. I don't remember if I did or not.
How was it that you came to have his phone number?
Mr. MacGyver?
And when did you obtain the phone number from Mr. MacGyver?
Over the weekend. I'm not sure what day.
Okay. So, was it during the first phone call when you talked to Mr. MacGyver before you while you were sitting in traffic? Did you get the phone number then?
On what day? On Friday?
Friday.
I don't believe so.
Okay. How about the second phone call to say, hey, they've left, when you did not tell them about the gun?
No.
Okay. So, did you talk to Mr. MacGyver on Saturday?
My daughter says I did. I don't remember talking to him on Saturday. But it was not about a gun.
Your daughter says that you talked to Mr. MacGyver on Saturday?
Yes.
When did she say that?
After she watched y'all live streaming this. And she said, Mom, you did talk to him on Saturday. We were at the grocery store. I did not remember that.
When did you have that conversation with your daughter?
I believe Saturday night on my way home. Friday night on my way home, sorry.
How many times did you talk to Mr. MacGyver on Saturday?
I believe only once that I
Just once.
didn't really remember talking to him, but once.
Well, would you have gotten the phone number for Sheriff Seal at that time?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen Mr. MacGyver wear white sweat socks with his boots?
Yes, I have.
You know him to do that.
Yes.
But how many pairs of boots does he have? Just a rough approximation.
Stop for a second.
Your Honor, I hesitate to rise and object, but this is really not relevant to the issue at all. How many pairs of boots does he have?
I'll allow it based on what I heard in openings about the closet and dark socks and white socks and questions of Investigator Salter from Mr. MacGyver's attorney. So we don't need to go super far.
Right.
But we also have the person who has inventoried everything in the
Right.
world. So I think it's an appropriate question that you can answer as best you recall.
Between 5 to 10 pairs?
How often does he wear boots?
I'd say 4 to 5 times a week, maybe, or 3. I don't see him every day, though.
I understand. Okay. 1 second, Judge, please. Okay. All right. Thank you, Judge. I believe that's all my questions.
All right. Mr. Hill, at long last, your turn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Johnson,
Good morning.
and thank you for coming back and spending the morning with us.
Sure.
Now, back on Friday, April 14, 2017, you unlocked the door at the Kingsborough Road condo to allow the DA search team in, correct?
I did.
And I think you told us that that was at approximately 4 p.m.
Correct.
And the last of the search team, I think you told us, left at approximately 8:25 p.m., correct?
Correct.
How long into that 4.5-hour search of the condo was it before you were taken into the bedroom and shown the weapon?
Maybe I'm not real sure, maybe the 3rd hour?
The 3rd hour? So they had been searching for 3 hours, so they got about an hour and a half left. They were still at the condo after you were shown the firearm.
I believe so.
Okay.
I don't really remember, though.
All right.
It wasn't right at the beginning, it wasn't right at the end.
No, it was not. It was in the middle.
Somewhere in that squishy middle.
Somewhere in the middle?
Yes.
Okay, we'll just call it the middle. When you were taken in the bedroom, had the Glock box already been opened?
I believe so.
Okay. And the pistol had been pulled partially or completely out of the box?
I believe it was, I think when I was brought in, it was partial, and then he showed me it wasn't loaded and they were testing it. So then it was out of the box.
Who showed you it was not loaded?
I don't remember his name.
Okay, was it a short African-American gentleman?
Yes, it was.
Okay, that was Mr. Brian Salter, is that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you recall whether or not Mr. Salter had on gloves as he was handling the weapon?
I believe he did.
Okay. But you say he showed you that the weapon was empty, correct?
Correct.
And you also noticed that there were 2 clips in the box, correct?
I honestly didn't look.
Well, let me
But-
ask you this. Did you ever see any ammunition with the Glock?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did Mr. Salter ever show you any ammunition with the Glock?
No, he did not.
Okay. Did anyone else on the search team ever show you any ammunition with the Glock?
No.
Now, during this 4.5-hour search, Mr. Rucker was there on site, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Rucker asked you where certain documents could be located, correct?
Not documents.
Okay. Did he ever ask you to direct him or the search team toward anything?
The safe?
The safe. Okay. And you were asked to unlock the safes, correct?
I think I volunteered.
Okay. You voluntarily unlocked and opened the safes
I
for the
did.
search team. Were you asked to identify boxes of materials that were removed from Mrs. MacGyver's office?
Yes.
Okay. And you identified those materials for the search team, correct?
Correct.
So the bottom line is, during this entire search, you were there on site, and you were cooperative, and you responded affirmatively to any requests that were made of you by the search team, correct?
I did.
Not in any way hostile
I don't believe so.
or confrontational.
No.
Okay. So during the last half of the search, while the search team remained in the condo after discovering the pistol, did anyone instruct you not to remove the pistol from the drawer?
Not in those specific length.
Okay. What was said to you?
That I should stay out of it.
Okay. Aside from telling you to stay out of it, whatever that means, and Mr. Rucker, Master of Communication, said stay out of it.
No, he
Correct.
did not.
Who said stay out of it?
Adam.
Adam said stay out of it. Did Adam explain to you what he meant by that?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did anyone tell you, do not remove this pistol from this drawer?
No.
Did anyone tell you, do not remove this pistol from this condo?
No.
Did anyone tell you that they would be returning with a search warrant to seize this pistol?
No.
Did anyone tell you not to touch the pistol because they may want to fingerprint?
No.
And I believe you told us that when you did remove the pistol from the condo, there was no ammunition with it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you know that shortly after Miss MacGyver's death, Phyllis Gable and Annie Anderson went through the condo to collect all of the firearms that belonged to Mr. MacGyver and Mrs. MacGyver, correct?
I was told that, yes.
Okay. And you were told, you also know, that Miss Gables and Miss Anderson took all those firearms next door and gave them to Janie Calhoun for safekeeping, correct?
That is correct.
Am I correct that you telephoned Mr. Maples, as Mr. Rucker pointed out to us, after the last of the search team left the condo?
That is correct.
Now, you got a call from the concierge services to come to the condo and open it for the police, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Had you had a conversation with Mr. Maples about how you should comport yourself if you were at the condo during the search team?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Maples told you to open it, be cooperative, not interfere, literally remove yourself, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. When you talked to Mr. Maples after the last of the search team left the condo, at that time you told him about the pistol that was found in the sock drawer, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And he told you to go next door and give the pistol to Janie Calhoun, correct?
Correct.
Who already had all the other pistols, correct?
Correct.
but Ms. Calhoun would not take it from you, correct?
That is correct.
Did you call Mr. Maples back to tell him Janie won't take the pistol?
I don't believe I did.
Okay. And you did not want to put the pistol back into the condo because Mr. MacGyver might come to the condo and he had a prohibition on firearms in his bond, correct?
That is correct.
Were you trying to interfere with an investigation by the DA's office by keeping physical possession of that firearm?
No.
Did Mr. Maples instruct you to interfere with the DA's investigation?
No.
So that, you need to ask a different question than that. I'll decide whether that interfered with the DA's investigation, that interesting request he made of
All right.
Ms. Johnson.
Did Mr. MacGyver give you any instructions about what to do with this pistol? By way of removing it from the condo?
Not removing it, no, sir.
What kind of instructions did he give you concerning the firearm, Mr. MacGyver?
If I would take photos to give to Mr. Sills to identify the gun.
What we talked about on Friday.
Correct.
Yep. Now, who came and got you and brought you into the bedroom to show you the pistol?
I believe Mr. Rucker, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I believe it was several of them, honestly, I think.
And when you were shown the pistol, is it fair to say you were absolutely taken by surprise by its presence?
Absolutely.
Because you knew that Ms. Gables and Ms. Anderson had gathered up and removed all of Mr. and Mrs. MacGyver's weapons that they could find, correct?
Yes.
And you knew that no weapons was a condition of Mr. MacGyver's bond, correct?
Correct.
And you had previously looked in that drawer and you did not see that Glock box,
No, I
correct?
did not.
And in the months that you worked with Mr. MacGyver and the other team members on the probate issues, is it fair to say that Mr. MacGyver is highly committed to complying with the conditions of his bond?
Yes.
Well, now, you spoke with Mr. MacGyver on, when was it, Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
And Sunday is when Mr. MacGyver asked you to take photographs of the Glock that was found in the drawer and to send those photographs to Sheriff Seals, correct?
Correct.
Mr. MacGyver gave you no instructions regarding this firearm other than simply photograph it and send the photographs to Sheriff Seals, isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Now, when you talked to Mr. MacGyver and you told him about the DA's search team finding a Glock in his sock drawer, what was your impression of Mr. MacGyver's reaction to that information?
He was surprised.
Now, in the months that you worked with Mr. MacGyver and with the probate team, you've been in and out and through that Kingsborough Road condo, correct?
That is correct.
You have spent an inordinate amount of time with Mr. MacGyver.
I have.
And with reference to the estate issues, they keep you in constant contact with Mr. MacGyver and the members of the estate legal team, correct?
Yes.
At any time during the months of working with Mr. MacGyver, has Mr. MacGyver ever expressed to you a desire to possess a firearm?
No.
During the months of working with Mr. MacGyver, has Mr. MacGyver expressed to you a desire not to possess a firearm so that he would not go to jail?
I believe that's come up a couple times.
Explain. You just talking with him and out of the blue he says, I sure hope I don't come across a firearm.
No, I mean, I've brought it up to him before about making sure everything from the ranch, all the guns were gone. They have some decorative guns that are chandelier, other stuff. I said, is that constituted as a gun? And he said, I don't want to be around any guns. I've been assured that they're not real guns.
So it was responsive to something you said.
Correct.
It wasn't just a out loud
No.
musing. I don't wake up one morning and there's a gun
No.
in the house.
No, sir.
In the months that you worked with Mr. MacGyver, have you ever seen him with a gun?
Yes.
When?
Before he was charged.
Okay. Thank you. Good point. Do you recall that it was December 22nd that he was afforded bond and he bonded out?
Correct.
Okay, so December 22nd, 2016 is when the prohibition on possession of firearms took place. Since December 22nd, 2016, have you seen Mr. MacGyver with a gun?
No.
Your Honor, can I have one moment?
Sure.
Just to wrap up, Ms. Johnson, at some point last week, you turned the firearm over to the district attorney's office, correct?
Correct.
Okay, how did that happen?
I brought it to my attorney's office.
Right, and that was Mr. Lapito?
Yes.
And you and Mr. Lapito brought the firearm down to the courthouse, but you left it in the car?
Actually, I brought it to Kirk Watkins first.
Okay.
And Nick was there also. And it was in Mr. Watkins' car.
Okay. And you all advised Mr. Rucker that you had the firearm and that you wanted him to send somebody out there to take custody because you couldn't bring it in the courthouse, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, was it always your intent to give that firearm to Mr. Rucker when you had the conversation with him? I think it was last Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have to wait to be asked by Mr. Rucker before you were going to give him the firearm?
I don't believe so.
If he had never brought it up, were you going to give it to him anyway?
Yes, we were.
Now, I want to ask you just a couple of questions about one other item. When you spoke with Mr. MacGyver on Sunday and you told him about the pistol, I think you told me that he was surprised.
Yes.
Would it be fair to say he was shocked?
He was shocked. He was upset. He even cried.
And would it be fair to say he explained he wanted you to get the photographs to Sheriff Seals because he needed to find out whose gun this was?
Correct.
And he said it was not his gun.
Correct.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Mr. Rucker, any redirect?
Very brief. Can you tell Judge McBurney whose gun is it?
I don't know.
And since you turned that gun over to your attorneys, you have not learned whose gun that belongs to?
When I was here on Friday, someone in the hall was talking about the gun.
Who?
Rachel Stiles.
Who was Rachel Stiles?
She used to work for the MacGyvers.
In what capacity?
She planned their wedding, she watered their plants, she does Mr. MacGyver's taxes.
Okay. And she was here on Friday.
Yes, she was.
You know her to be a witness in the case.
I guess. I don't know that
Right.
for
You
a
know
fact.
she talked to the DA's office, right?
Yes, I do know that.
Right.
Yes.
And what did she say about the gun?
She said it was Billy Corey's.
Who is Billy Corey?
It was Diane's previous employer.
What else did you hear about this gun?
I told her I didn't want to hear any more and to walk away.
Isn't it true that on Friday, Adam actually gave you his cell phone number?
Which Friday are we
I'm
talking
sorry,
about?
the Friday of the search at the condo.
I really don't remember if he did. He might have, I think you guys gave me 2 cards I threw in my purse.
Okay.
I've not looked at it since.
Okay. And so prior to giving the gun to your attorneys, you did have the opportunity or a way to reach out to tell us, hey, I'm going to move this gun and I want to give it to you. You could have done that, right?
I could have, but why would I?
Okay. And in fact, isn't it true that Adam told you on Friday not to move that gun? Didn't
No, he told me to stay out of it.
Stay out of it. You don't recall him telling you not to move the gun?
No, I don't.
Okay. Is this true that the phone calls with Mr. MacGyver that you had over the course of the weekend that you told us about, they were about this gun, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. This is asked and answered. We did it on Friday and we did it this morning.
What's
I'll
new
rephrase
here?
it. I'll get right to it more specifically. You had conversations with Mr. MacGyver about this gun and the impact it would have on his conditions for bond not to have a gun, correct?
I don't believe we talked specifically about that.
Well,
I just said you're in a lot of trouble, was the extent of it.
that's what you said.
Yes, it is.
And then what did he say?
He cried.
That was on Sunday.
Yes.
Did he say anything to you like, you know I am, or anything like that? Any responses?
Not really.
Not really.
I mean, no.
Did he ask you what type of gun it was to describe it to him so he could figure out?
Yes, he did.
Okay. So tell us about that. I want to know what he said to you.
He just asked what kind of gun it was. I said it was a Glock in a box. He asked me to take pictures so they could identify the gun. He said he honestly did not remember a gun. He's never owned a Glock. He doesn't like them.
Did he tell you that he and Diane had given Billy Corey a Glock as a birthday gift?
I had heard that. He did not tell me that.
Did you think that that was the gun? That was that issue?
No, I did not.
If Mr. Maples had not told you to move the gun, would you have just locked up the condo and left?
Yes, I would have.
You'd have left the gun in there, wouldn't
I
you?
probably would have until somebody else could have come and taken it out.
Right. And why did Janie Calhoun tell you she was not going to take the gun? I mean, since she had all the other guns.
I think her words were, "I'm over this."
I'm over this.
I think. I don't remember actually.
And when Ms. Calhoun wouldn't take the gun, can you tell Judge McBurney, why didn't you call Mr. Maples and say, hey man, that plan is not going to work. Janie is not going to take the gun.
Because I was trying to get home to my family who had been calling me all night long.
Okay. Okay. Does Mr. MacGyver employ you?
The estate, which he's the executor.
Right.
Yep.
He has to authorize your payment.
Yes, that is correct.
And what is your monthly payment?
Now is $5,000.
$5,000 a month?
Does that include having to be down here? Or
Yes,
that
it
would be a
does.
bonus?
And how much are you getting to be down here?
Down here?
Mhm.
Nothing. You owe me money, by the way.
And Chick-fil-A.
Yes, because it's
And
cost me
Chick-fil-A.
quite a bit of money to come here.
Okay. And you've been employed with Mr. MacGyver for how long?
I believe.
She's not employed with Mr. MacGyver. She works for the estate.
You've been employed by the estate for how long?
Since the middle of October.
Okay. What type of gun did you see Mr. MacGyver with before his arrest? Was it a handgun or a rifle?
I don't know what kind it was.
A
It was
long gun? Or
No, it
was
was
a
short.
Okay. Was it black?
I don't know. It was in a bag.
In a bag. And what was he doing with it?
He was transferring it to another car because he had a new car.
This was after the death of his wife?
Yes.
Did you think it was odd that he would be carrying a gun after the death of his wife?
No, I thought he was
Stop,
cleaning
stop,
it.
stop. Please don't answer.
Objection, Your Honor. Irrelevant and calls for literally a comment on Mr. MacGyver's mindset and mental quirk.
Right. The relevance part, let's focus on post-bond conditions.
Right. I think that's all my questions.
Okay.
And I would just ask the court to, if there are no other recross, she can be excused but not released.
Okay.
And you can stick around.
Can I have just one second?
Sure. I have a question. So, Ms. Johnson, you said in response to one of Mr. Rucker's questions, why didn't you call Mr. Abate or Mr. Rucker? Why would I do that when Mr. Maples asked you to move the gun, or what were you going to do with the gun? I need to understand your thought process that led to you thinking, I don't need to notify the district attorney's office that I'm moving the gun, but it's okay to follow Mr. Maples' request to move the gun. You know what I'm asking?
I do.
It's sort of a one-sided thing, and you're stuck in the middle.
I am stuck in the
very
middle.
much appreciate that, and you are in an awkward position, and I'm just trying to understand how you worked through those competing concerns you might have.
In my mind, if the gun was that important, they should have taken it with them, not left it for me to either say I remove it or I don't remove it. I felt if it was very important to them, they would have taken it. I don't know why I'd call them to come back and get it. They were already there.
Okay. And you don't recall anyone from the search team saying, don't touch it or don't move it? What you shared with me is
No.
that someone said, stay out of things.
Stay out of
kind generic.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Judge Hill, did you have anything else for this witness?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Latito, good morning.
Good morning. Ms. Johnson has been incredibly cooperative here. An event that she had been planned for a long time was completely messed up on Friday. She lives in Chattanooga. I mean, they've had their crack at her. May she be excused not to hang around? She doesn't live in this area.
So my thought is this, I'm going to let Ms. Johnson go and she can leave Atlanta. She's not released from her subpoena. And so it may be that Ms. Johnson gets to come back a third time. We'll work with her schedule on that. It won't be that she gets a call in an hour saying, make a U-turn on 75 and come back here. But if the state's not releasing her from her subpoena, the state's not doing that. And I can understand why. But I'm not going to require Ms. Johnson to stay here now. She is free to go. And if we need to come up with Chapter 3, if the state feels it's important, or the defense feels it's important for her to come back, we'll come up with Chapter 3. Middle ground, okay?
Now, I have a selfish interest too, because I'm planning to leave town myself and be about 5 hours away. But obviously, if I have to come back, I will.
Your trip will be longer.
Right.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Do you want this back?
You can give it to that folks at that table as you leave.
Judge, is it okay if myself and Mr. Latito approach?
Okay?
Come back.
No, you can still go. I'd take this chance.
Thank you.
She's always been findable. I guess she's go on her way. You just need to leave your card.
I don't think you have to do what you just said.
Okay, but appreciate you guys sharing with each other and letting me hear what you were sharing. Mr. Rucker, your
Yes.
next witness, please.
Yes, sir. Your Honor, the state will call Mr. Michael Sprinkle.
Mr. Sprinkle. I think they are.
I think so.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you what, in an effort to be judicious with our time, I'll go to the next witness. I'll call Janie Calhoun.
All right, Ms. Calhoun. We need witness number 3.
Give me 1 second.
Okay. Ms. Griffin, you can be ready to go on Mr. Mathis on Monday?
I will be.
Great.
It should be very straightforward.
There were no motions. It sounds like it is what it is, and
Yeah.
we'll get through it. Okay. Will Mr. Arnold be helping, or?
Yeah, we'll do it together.
Great. Which of the several witnesses?
Who's coming in?
You don't look like Janie Calhoun.
All right, sir, if you would, face me and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you would give before the court today is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may be seated. Please state your name and spell it for the court.
William E. Corey, C-O-R-E-Y.
And good morning, Mr. Corey. Could you introduce yourself just a little bit to Judge McBurney by telling him just a little bit about yourself? We'll start with how old you are and what kind of businesses are you associated with?
I'm 85, and I'm in the advertising business and real estate.
Okay. How long have you been in those businesses?
65 years.
Okay.
Not the advertising, but business.
Business, I understand. And can you share with the judge, did you know or have a relationship with Diane MacGyver?
Yes.
Can you characterize that for the judge?
Diane, we worked together for like around 43 years.
Was she a partner? Was she an executive for you?
Executive.
And what was her position there at the company at the time she passed?
She was president.
Okay. And can you tell the judge, did you have a good relationship with Diane MacGyver?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, Mr. Corey, I'm just going to ask you, we get to the heart of it, did you love her? Like a daughter?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell the judge, were you involved with Diane as in business and also as in personal when she met Mr. Tex McIver?
Yes.
You remember when they got married? Roughly.
Approximately 12 years ago, something like that.
Okay. And did you come to have a relationship with Mr. MacGyver as far as business was concerned as well as personal?
Yes.
Okay. Very briefly, in a nutshell, what was the business relationship?
He represented us in labor law.
Okay. And in a nutshell, also tell us about the personal.
He was Diane's husband and frequently visited with each other.
Okay. Those visits, they occur at the condo there on Kingsborough Road?
Sometimes.
Okay. Did those visits sometimes occur at the ranch out in Eatonton?
Yes.
Okay. And have you had the occasion to fire guns with Claude MacGyver?
I haven't fired any guns. I haven't fired any guns with him.
Okay. And have you seen him fire guns?
Yes.
Okay. And would that be on occasions when you would visit the ranch?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell the judge, sometime, and we may not be sure of the year, but after he was married to Diane, did you receive a gift from Diane and or Tex McIver of a handgun?
Last year, I think.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes it was either around my birthday or Christmas 2015, or sometime my birthday, I guess. It must have been my birthday around February of 2016.
Okay.
As I recall.
Okay. And can you tell the judge the gun that you received as a gift, did I ask you to bring it with you today to court?
Yes.
Were you able to do that?
Yes.
Give me 1 second, okay, Mr. Corey? Your Honor, for purposes of this hearing, I'm going to mark this exhibit as State's Exhibit number 10, and I intend to display it to the witness. I'll state in my place that the weapon has been checked, it has been made safe, can't be fired in court, but I want to give the defense attorney an opportunity to look at it. Sure.
While we're waiting, Mr. Corey, I have a question for you. Your property right at Martin Luther King and the connector, the big smokestack.
Yes.
What did that building used to be?
It was a steam, Georgia Power Company steam plant. It furnished steam for the Capitol and these buildings down through here before the technology changed.
Okay.
It only operated a couple of years, I understand.
So it was sort of late in the steam game, and then it was obsolete.
Yeah, yeah.
And you acquired it from Georgia Power? Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Mr. Corey, I'm going to show you this box. I have marked it as number 10, and this box contains a handgun. It's been made safe. It can't be fired. Is that the handgun in the box that you received from Diane or Tex McIver as a birthday gift?
Yes.
All right. For the purpose of this hearing, Judge, I'll tender it.
Okay.
No objection.
Mr. Hill, no objection to the admission of States 10.
And that is the pistol, the box, and all of its contents.
That's what I'm assuming. The label is on the box. They ought to leave everything in it that was in it when it got here.
There's no label on the box, but there are documents in the box.
Well, I think there is a label on the box. In fact, that's what says States Exhibit 10.
Oh, well, yes, the exhibit stick, you're correct.
So Exhibit 10, as labeled, is the box and its contents.
Mm-hmm. And I understand where Mr. Hill is going. So, Judge, I tell you, for the purpose of this hearing, I will mark the firearm as 10A. Okay?
Okay.
So that we can individually talk about it. And then I will mark a white envelope, Judge, that has several documents in it. On the outside of the envelope, it says Glock Incorporated, Important Safeguards. I will mark this envelope, which will include all its contents, as States 10B. As in
Corey,
boy.
are you okay with them putting stickers on everything?
That's fine with me.
Okay. And for the court's edification and for the record, I've placed the contents back inside of States Exhibit 10, along with the handgun, which remains. And Mr. Corey, let me ask you this. After you were given that handgun as a gift by Diane and Tex McIver, did you ever give it back to them?
No.
That handgun, as well as the box and its contents, have remained in your care, custody, and control since it was given to you by Diane and Tex McIver?
Yes.
At the time that you were given that handgun by Diane and Tex McIver as a gift, do you recall whether or not there was any conversation at that time or since about whether or not they had purchased a gun that was almost identical to that one?
I have no knowledge of that.
Okay. All right. And over the course of the last 3 weeks,
Let me correct.
I'm sorry, yes.
I don't know what kind of gun it was, but I think Diane had a gun that she kept in her car, say, parked sometimes.
Okay.
I don't know what kind of gun.
But you just don't know what type of gun it was? Okay, all right. Sir, this may seem like a silly question, but I have to ask you. In the last 3 weeks, you have not put anything inside of a sock drawer in the condo 1501 that belonged to Claude MacGyver, have you?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all my questions.
Okay. Any questions from the defense for Mr. Corey?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Your Honor, can I find the state's exhibits from Friday, which were the photographs of the pistol that were found in the sock drawer?
So we've got a few exhibits here that were magically transferred to our new court reporter on this matter. So hopefully it's in the If you'd leave them on the table where Exhibit 10 is, please, so that they're available to all. Thank you.
Corey, it's good to see you again. It's been a while. I'm William Hill. Mr. Corey, let me first show you what Mr. Rucker marked as State's Exhibits number 10, 10A, B, and I think maybe C. And I'll put it right here with you. It's the black box, and on the top it says in very prominent letters, Glock, correct? And it has a green Glock 19 in it. All right, and when we look at the box, well, looking at the weapon, we can see that the serial number on this weapon is GDX 984, correct?
I don't know. I never looked at it.
Okay. So you never noticed that the serial number was GDX 984?
No, I've never looked at it.
Have you ever noticed that with these Glocks, the serial number on the slide, on the barrel, and on the grip always matches the serial number that's on the box? Have you ever noticed that?
I have no idea of that.
So you didn't know that?
No, I have no idea.
So we're looking at this weapon, and this is weapon GDX 984, and this is the weapon, the green Glock, that Diane MacGyver gave you, I think January 31st, 2016.
I don't know if it was January 31st.
It was as a birthday present for you.
It was a birthday or Christmas. That's been so long ago. I don't know exactly when but it was one of the two. I'm assuming it's one of the two.
Yes, sir.
They gave it to me.
And your birthday is February 4th?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what day they gave it to me.
All right, so we got a green Glock, GDX 984.
Now, Corey, did you ever use the gun after it was given to you?
I don't think I've ever had my hands on it. I
Okay.
took it home, put it in a chair and put a cloth over it, and
There it sat.
until y'all asked for it, I hadn't. I don't think I've ever.
All right. So when we examine the box, am I correct that nowhere on the box can you see the serial number for the gun? And I'm not going. It says night sight. I'm not going to tear that
I
out.
don't know anything about it. I had never examined it.
Never examined it. So you never examined the box. So you didn't know that inside the box there's a white envelope from Glock
I didn't know that.
with all the manufacturer specs and information on how to have the gun serviced or have it fixed if it's ever broken, correct?
Never opened it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, sir. Could you please speak up?
Ma'am.
Could you please speak up?
Okay.
So you said you never opened the envelope?
I've never opened the envelope.
Okay.
Okay. So you didn't know that inside the envelope is this little brown letter from Glock that talks about the semi-automatic pistol, 9mm, Glock G19, and then it gives you the serial number of the gun that goes in this box. And the serial number of the gun that goes in this box is KBU 446. You never knew that was in there, did you?
I never opened. I said I never opened the envelope.
All right. Curious thing. Let me show you this. I will represent to you that this is a photograph that was taken by the district attorney's search team of a Glock 19 that was found in Mr. MacGyver's sock drawer. This is State's Exhibit number 6. What is the serial number on the gun that was found in Mr. MacGyver's sock drawer?
Which one? These are serial numbers.
This is the serial number. What is that?
It's KBU 446. Look at that.
The same as the serial number on the gun that is supposed to be married up with this box. Correct?
Correct as far as I know.
All right. Do you have any explanation how a gun that you have testified that Diane MacGyver gave you either for Christmas or sometime close to your birthday, that you, in response to questions from Mr. Rucker, said you never gave back to Tex McIver, and you never gave back to Diane MacGyver, how that gun that was given to you, do you know how it ended up in Mr. MacGyver's sock drawer?
What? Say, ask the question again.
Okay, I'll do it slow.
And can you go back to the podium, unless you need to be showing them something
No,
else?
I can go back. Let me get the photograph and the numbers so I can keep them straight now. Mr. Corey, you've testified on direct examination in response to questions from Mr. Rucker that either for your birthday or as a Christmas gift, Diane MacGyver gave you a green block, correct?
Somewhere along those.
Yes.
Yes, I did testify that.
And it came in that box that is sitting in front of you right now, State's Exhibit number 10.
Yes.
And you testified that you never gave that box and you never gave that gun back to Tex McIver or Diane MacGyver.
I never did.
Okay. And you and I, as we were having our conversation, I took out of that box from Glock the mailing packet that has the serial number of the 9mm that came in that box, and it was KBU 446. You read that into the
I
record,
read
correct? And I showed you a photograph of a Glock that was taken from Mr. MacGyver's sock drawer on April 14, 2017, correct?
Yes.
And it was a photograph taken by the DA's search team, their State's Exhibit number 6.
Yeah.
And I showed you on the slide and on the barrel housing the serial number of that gun. And it's KBU 446. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
So I was here for all this. I'm following you. If you want to get them to, this is now the second or third time we've connected those dots.
Mr. Rucker asked if you had put anything in Tex McIver's condo, correct?
Yes, he asked me that.
He didn't ask you if you had instructed anyone else to put something in Tex McIver's condo, did he?
He didn't ask me that question.
Did you instruct anyone else to put a gun in
No.
Mr. MacGyver's condo?
No, I've never instructed anybody to put a gun in.
Who is James Hughes?
James Hughes is a fellow that does work for us, and he does work. He does our cleans our office and washes our cars.
Mr. Hugh works for you, correct?
He's a, I guess you call him a subcontractor. He's not my employee. He's a contractor. He cleans our office and washes our cars.
Okay, he's a subcontractor for your business.
Yes.
And Mr. Hugh has access.
How do you spell Hugh, as best you know, Mr. Cord?
I think it's H-U-G-H.
That's correct. And Mr. Hugh has access to Mr. MacGyver's condo, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware that Mr. Hugh was at Mr. MacGyver's condo shortly before the search?
I'm not aware of that.
You're not aware that Mr. Hugh was at Mr. MacGyver's condo shortly before the search early in the morning for about 16 minutes?
I have no idea what Mr. Hughes.
Let me try and be a bit more specific. Did you know that Mr. Hugh was at Mr. MacGyver's condo on Tuesday, April 11, 2017, from 7:42 to 7:58 p.m.?
No, I have no knowledge of his whereabouts.
All right.
Can you have that envelope go
Oh,
back with the
yes.
evidence?
Yes.
Thank you. Did you have any redirect for Mr. Corey, Mr. Rucker?
Just want to ask him this one question. Mr. Corey, you're also aware that Mr. Hugh does a lot of work for Mr. MacGyver.
Yes,
And he does a lot of work for Diane also.
yes,
And actually, the relationship kind of developed out of a relationship that Diane had with him for many years.
yes.
Okay. Thank you. One other additional question. No, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Mr. Corey, I appreciate you taking time to come down here. You're excused.
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Rucker, if you call your next witness, but we also need to clean up the witness stand. So maybe someone from your team can, oh, Judge Hill's gonna.
I just move it.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Hill, we put the documents back? Okay.
Yes, I
Gotcha.
did. I put
Thank
it
you.
back.
All right. Judge, for the record, the state will call as its next witness Mr. Jay Grover.
Okay.
Let's see, let's put it somewhere I want Judge McBurney to be able to see it. Let's see, let's put it, yes, it is.
Come right up to the witness stand here, and Sarge will swear you in, please.
All right, sir, if you would turn and face me and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you give before the court today is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. State your name and spell it.
James M. Grover III, Grover.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Grover.
Good morning, Mr. Rucker.
Can you introduce yourself to Judge McBurney very briefly? If you could tell him how you're currently employed and a brief sketch of your prior employment history.
I'm employed as a Vice President of Special Projects for the Corey Companies. I work directly for Mr. Corey. Prior to that, my career was in law enforcement. I was a City of Conyers police officer, and I was also detached to the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration as well as the Atlanta Committee for the Olympic Games at various times in my career.
Okay.
What's an example of a special project that you'd be in charge of?
Well, I always say that it's whatever doesn't fall under someone else's responsibility in the company. So it can be anything from dealing with some of Mr. Corey's personal affairs to research on a business or a piece of property or something we're looking at.
Okay.
And as a law enforcement officer, you are fairly familiar with firearms.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you assist Mr. Corey in bringing to the DA's office this morning a firearm?
I did.
Okay. We've had the opportunity to show it to Judge McBurney already. It's been entered into evidence. It's marked as State's Exhibit 10 is the box, Mr. Grover, and then 10A specifically identifies the handgun, and 10B identifies a white envelope with several contents in it. Do you recognize all those items? And if you do recognize them, tell Judge McBurney how you recognize them.
Yes, sir. I recognize these. I know that Mr. Corey was given this handgun and by Tex and or Diane. I don't know which one specifically. And I knew that he had a Glock. I had not seen it until this morning. It was the first time that I actually saw it in person. I'd seen a picture of it in the past, but I saw it this morning for the first time.
Okay. And then you all brought it into us.
That's correct.
Now, did you, let me ask you directly, did you, at any part of the last 3 or 4 weeks or so, take a Glock semi-automatic handgun and put it into the sock drawer from Mr. Claude MacGyver?
Absolutely not.
Did you cause anybody else to do that?
Absolutely not.
Okay. See if I get this to cooperate with me today. Okay. Would you hold something for this? This is what I'd like you to do for me, Mr. Grover. If you could call out for me the serial number that's on the handgun that you brought into the DA's office this morning that was given to Mr. Corey by the MacGyvers. If you flip it over on the other side, I think it's on the slide.
All right. G. George.
Hold on 1 second. Okay. I'm ready. What's the number?
G. George,
Mhm.
D. David, X. X-ray, 984.
And if you would, look at that yellow card that's inside that white envelope that states exhibit number 10C. Let me know when you get it.
All right. Yes,
Read
sir.
out to me the serial number.
Serial number.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. I'm ready.
Serial number K. King, B. Bravo, U. Uniform, 446.
Okay. Hold that for me, please, okay? Okay, you put the envelope back. Let me show you another exhibit. This is State's Exhibit number 9. It's marked on the outside of the box. And I would like for you to take a look at this serial number for this weapon and give me a chance to just write it on this board, and I want you to read it out to me, okay?
All right. Let me know when you're ready, Mr. Rucker.
All right.
Wait for the second request.
Okay, hold on. Okay, what's the serial number from the gun?
K. King, B. Bravo, U. Uniform, 446.
Okay. And if you could, take a look at the box and see if there's a label on the side of the box by the handle that has a serial number on it.
There is.
Okay, could you read it for me?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. Thank you, Judge. Okay, I'm ready.
G. George, D. David, X. X-ray, 984.
Okay. And so, let me ask you, Mr. Grover, would it be fair to say that the serial number for the gun that Mr. Corey has matches the box,
Yes.
right? For the gun that the court has heard has come from the condominium?
Yes.
Okay, and it appears as though the gun that was found in the box inside the condominium matches the serial number for the gun. Did I say that right?
The paperwork found in the box that went to Mr. Corey has a
Right.
serial number on it that matches the serial number of the gun found in the sock drawer.
Yes, that's correct.
In other words, in the gift to Mr. Corey, where no one disputes the firearm, the olive firearm is GDX, for some reason it's got paperwork for KBU.
Yes,
And
sir.
yet in the sock drawer, there is the firearm KBU, but the box that seems like ought to have gone with the gift to Mr. Corey, GDX. That's what it appears to be to you
Yes, sir, that's what it appears.
and to me.
Has Mr. Corey or anyone, Mr. MacGyver, or did Diane ever share with you how the guns could have gotten mistakenly placed in different boxes?
Objection, Your Honor. There is absolutely no record evidence that these guns were mistakenly placed in different boxes.
I'll rephrase the question.
Okay,
Was there
let's
any-
rephrase.
Okay, is there any conversation, let's start break it down, with you and Mr. MacGyver about how the gun that has one serial number ended up in a box for a different serial number and vice versa?
No, sir.
Okay, did Diane ever explain that to you?
No, sir.
Or Mr. Corey?
No, sir.
Okay. And would it be fair to say that if Mr. Corey never returned that gun to the MacGyvers, it was given to him in that manner?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. How often would you say Mr. MacGyver wears cowboy boots?
Quite often. Most of the time when I see him, he's wearing cowboy boots.
Do you know him to wear white gym socks when he wears his cowboy boots?
I don't know that specifically about him. I wear white socks when I wear my cowboy boots, but
Okay.
I can't speak for him.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much.
Mr. Maples?
Mr. Grover.
Grover?
Grover,
Yes, sir.
how are you this morning?
Just fine.
Okay. Mr. Grover, you said you were previously employed by the City of Atlanta Police Department. How long?
No, sir. City of Conyers Police
I'm
Department.
sorry, City of Conyers Police Department.
I was with the City of Conyers for approximately 18 years.
18 years?
Yes, sir.
And during that time, you were a patrolman and a detective?
Yes, sir. I started out in the uniform division and promoted to a supervisor. Then I was later detached to the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration on a state and local task force. Then I was promoted again, and I was the commander of the East Metro Drug Enforcement Team. And then I was the chief of detectives for the Conyers Police, and then I was assigned to the Olympic Committee.
And you left your employment with the City of Conyers Police Department to become basically the driver for Mr. Corey, is that correct?
No, sir, that's not correct.
You were not the driver for Mr. Corey?
Well, which question are you? Asked two questions there.
Okay. I'm asking you, did you leave, when you left your employment with the City of Conyers Police Department, where did you go?
I went to work for an individual in the nightclub business.
How long did you work there?
A couple of years.
That was here in Atlanta?
Sir?
Was that here in Atlanta?
No, sir, it was not.
Where was it?
It was in Gainesville and in Conyers.
And how long did you work in the nightclub business?
Judge, I'm going to object. That's irrelevant.
Well, you covered his background, so we're not going to dive deep into it, but I'll let Mr. Maples I'll ask you to answer that question, which was how long. I think you already did.
Yeah,
You were in it
a
for
couple of years.
Okay.
I don't know exactly.
And from when you left the nightclub business, where did you go to work? To Harley Davidson of Atlanta. How long were you there?
Approximately 3 years.
And from there, where did you go?
I came to work for the Corey companies.
Okay. And were you the driver then for Billy Corey?
Well, when you say the driver, that's one of the things that I have done is drive Mr. Corey. Also, he drives me sometimes.
What's the occasion when he drives you?
Sometimes just coming to the office in the morning.
Okay. Now, Mr. Corey lives in Conyers, doesn't he?
That's correct.
And you live in a house that is right across the street from Mr. Corey, correct?
It's actually on the same property, on the same side of the street.
Is it on the same side of the street?
Yes, sir, on the same side of the
On
street.
the same side of the street. That's a house that he owns.
Yes, sir.
He owns it. He paid for it, right?
Well, I don't know that. It's a house that's owned by one of the companies, but yes, I would consider Mr. Corey the owner.
Well, let me rephrase it. Perhaps we can get a photo like this. You didn't buy it, did you?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay, how long have you lived in that house for free?
I've never lived there for free.
Okay, how long have you lived in that house?
10 years.
10 years. Okay. You never paid for it, did you?
Did I purchase the house? Is that the
Yes.
question? No, sir, I have not purchased that house.
Okay. You're not paying rent on it, are you?
Yes, sir, I am.
How much?
I pay $400 a month.
And since you're on the same property with Mr. Corey, and Mr. Corey lives in Conyers, you usually bring him, drive him into work in the city of Atlanta, correct?
As a general statement, no. Sometimes he drives, sometimes I drive, sometimes we come in different vehicles.
All right. And you know where the condominium is located on Kingsborough Road, don't you?
Yes, sir, I do.
You've been there many times before, right?
Many, many times.
And you were guests of both Mr. and Mrs. MacIver then?
Many times.
And you're also aware of the fact that Mr. Billy Corey owns Unit 1402 in that condo, correct?
Well, if you're speaking specifically, I believe that the company owns another condo there.
Okay, all right. Well, regardless of whether it's in Mr. Corey's name or the company's name, does anybody else use that condo other than Mr. Corey?
Not that I'm aware of, unless someone from one of our general managers are in town. They may stay there, but I don't know
I
specifically.
mean, they may stay one night, 2 nights, but they don't live there.
No, sir.
Okay, but you have driven frequently in the evening when Diane used to leave from work. Billy and Diane would leave at 5 o'clock, correct?
Sir,
Usually?
I don't know what time they left.
You drove them to the condo.
Who drove them to the condo?
All right. Let me phrase this. Would you normally, Billy would normally visit a person in Unit 1402, would he not?
Stop for a second. Mr. Rucker has
Objection.
risen.
It just seems like we may be a little far afield.
Where are we going, Mr. Maples?
Well, what I'm trying to show is he stayed and waited until Mr. Corey finished his business with the person in 1402 in order to drive Mr. Corey back to his farm in Conyers.
And then I'll object as to relevance. What does that have to do with the purpose of why we're here?
Well, Mr. Grover being at the Kingsborough property on a regular basis could be relevant, but you can establish that. It sounds like Mr. Grover has already said he has been to the Kingsborough, I don't know if the building has a name, but we're talking about the same building.
Yes, sir.
Where the Corey companies own a unit and where the MacGyvers had adjoining units.
That's correct.
You were there routinely?
Yes, sir.
Okay, established.
And you're familiar with James Hugh, correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
You know that James Hugh also works for Mr. Corey,
Yes, sir.
all right? And Mr. Hugh also had access to the MacGyver condominium, correct?
Yes, sir.
You had access.
Stop you for a second. How would you, I'm not doubting, I'm just curious, how
Yeah.
would you know that James Hugh has access to someone else's condo, not the one that Mr. Corey or the company might own?
I've seen James there many times, Your Honor.
At the MacGyvers?
Yes, sir, at the MacGyver unit while I was there. Yes, sir.
You had a combination to Mr. MacGyver's condo, did you not?
No, sir, I did not.
You didn't have the condo?
No, sir.
It's just a 4-digit combination lock, correct?
Sir, I don't know. I don't
All right.
have it.
You knew that, you did know that Mr. Corey had the combination to the MacGyver condominium, correct?
Sir, I have no knowledge of that.
Have you ever seen Mr. Corey let himself into the condo?
No, sir, never.
Well, then I want to better understand what you said about Mr. Hugh. I heard the question was, did Mr. Hugh have access to the MacGyver's condos, the adjoining? Your response was, I've seen Mr. Hugh there many times.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that Mr. Hugh could let himself into the MacGyver's condo, or you simply seen him there?
Oh, I've seen him there. I don't know whether he could let himself in or not. I don't know who has a key or what to the condo. I don't. But I have been at the condo, and I've seen James there many times.
All right. Have you been at the condo when Mr. Hugh arrived?
I can't say specifically. I'm sure I have.
I didn't ask specifically only for a specific date or a specific time. I'm just asking you, have you been there when you saw Mr. Hugh arrive?
Well, I'll answer the same question again. I don't know that I can't recall that I've been there specifically when he arrived.
Would you agree that when Mr. Hugh did arrive, he just simply let himself in?
I have no knowledge of that.
Thank you very much. No further
Wait,
questions.
just a moment,
Wait,
Your
I'm sorry.
Sure.
May I approach?
Sure, you already did, that's fine.
You have two exhibits in front of you, correct? You have State's Exhibit number 9, which is a black Glock, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've already identified the black Glock as having a serial number on it of KBU, like Kilo Bravo Uniform 448, correct?
I believe that's 446.
I'm sorry, 446, you're
I
right.
can borrow my glasses.
I should. Okay. All right. Now, looking at those two pistols, look at State's Exhibit number 9. Do you have any evidence whatsoever to show that Mr. Claude MacIver is the owner of the pistol in State's Exhibit number 9?
I have no knowledge that he's the owner.
You don't know who's the owner of either the pistol or the box represented by State's Exhibit number 9, do you?
No, sir.
Okay. And now all right, do you have any evidence that Diane ever owned either the box or the pistol that is contained in State's Exhibit number 9?
This particular firearm?
Yes, sir.
No,
The
sir.
one that you're looking at, to your immediate left, the black Glock.
No,
The
sir.
one that we identified. You have no evidence to show that Diane ever possessed that Glock, identified by the serial number KBU 446, do you?
No, sir.
Do you have any idea who does own that pistol?
No, sir, I don't.
Or the box?
No, sir.
Have you ever seen either one ever at any time in your life?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Mr. Rucker, any redirect for
For
Mr.
brief?
Brogan?
Piggybacking on Mr. Maples' last question, let me just ask you this. You can't really tell Judge McBurney about the ownership of that handgun, is that correct?
No, sir, I can't.
Right. Can you give him any information about whether or not Mr. MacGyver possessed it? Which is a different question. Have you ever, let me ask you a better question. You ever seen him with a black semi-automatic handgun?
Objection is a little too broad, Your Honor. What I believe it means to ask is if never seen with state's exhibit number 9.
He asked the question he asked, and he may choose to narrow it down. It won't add a whole lot if he just says, I've seen him with a gun at some point. That Mr. MacGyver owns guns, so he's probably seen him with. So repeat the question.
Sure.
So
no, I'm just asking you if you ever recall seeing Mr. MacGyver with a black semi-automatic handgun similar to State's Exhibit number 9. Ever?
No, sir, not that I recall specifically.
That's okay. Take a look at State's Exhibit number 10. I think you told the judge something about there being a sight on that gun. What did you mean?
I don't recall telling the judge that.
Okay. Is there a sight on the gun?
There's a sight on it.
And what is that thing that's on the front of it, underneath the barrel?
That's a light for use at night or in low light conditions. You can turn the light on or off, and it will just it'll illuminate the area in front of you, illuminate the target.
Okay. And are there any other modifications or additions to that gun?
Nothing that I see.
Okay. And would it be fair to say that both State's Exhibit number 9 and State's Exhibit number 10, those are 9mm semi-automatic handguns?
Yes, sir.
Which require 9mm ammunition?
Yes, sir. I think that's fair to say.
Okay. Thank you.
okay. Mr. Grover, appreciate your time. Back to special projects for you.
My excuse, Your Honor.
You are excused.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness?
State calls Michael Sprinkle.
For real?
Better be this time.
You would raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you will give before the court today is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. State your name and spell it for the court.
Before you do that, let's just clear up one thing. How are we doing with rule of sequestration? I overheard Mr. Maples' concern. I want to make sure we address it.
Right. And so he is released. I don't expect that he will be called.
Okay. So do you have any objection, Mr. Maples, to having Mr. Grover or Mr. Corey remain in the courtroom?
No objection.
Okay. All right. Great. Then, as you were, and if you would now please state your name and spell it for the record.
Michael Allen Sprinkle, first name spelled common spelling Michael, middle name Allen Allen, last name Sprinkle Sprinkel.
And can you tell Judge McBurney, and for the record, how are you employed?
I'm employed at the Fulton County District Attorney's Office as an assistant district attorney.
Okay. And I'm going to get right to it, Mr. Sprinkle. At the close of business on Friday, did I ask you to look over some documents?
Yes. You asked me to look over some cellular telephone records for Miss Tammy Johnson.
Okay. And were you able to do that?
I was able to do that.
Okay. And I want to show you, this is State's Exhibit number 11. And if you could identify State's Exhibit number 11 for Judge McBurney. What is it?
These are cellular telephone call logs from the AT&T phone company for cellular telephone number 214-771-1551.
Okay. And we've identified that as the number for Ms. Tammy Johnson.
That's correct.
And can you tell the judge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Stop for a second.
I don't think there is any testimony from Ms. Johnson as to what her cell phone number is. There's nothing in the record from Ms. Johnson about her cell phone number.
We'll be able to establish that, Judge.
So before anything gets admitted, I guess you'll need to connect those dots. My recollection, admittedly imperfect, is identical to Judge Hill's. I don't recall Ms. Johnson saying my cell phone number is 1234. That's not the only way to connect the dots, but relevancy will be tricky to establish for those records if it's not shown that that is in fact Ms. Johnson's number.
Okay, I understand. I would state in my place I'd be able to connect it. We will be calling an investigator who has communicated with Ms. Johnson by telephone, her telephone number, which was provided to her. And the testimony will be that each and every time she's called, that number is provided by Ms. Johnson. Ms. Johnson answers and responds, and so we're able to communicate with her that way.
You will call that, so you are representing to me that you'll tie it up in that manner?
Correct.
Okay.
With investigator John Griffin.
Okay, and that's someone you're committing to putting on the stand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. I'm going to work with that for now, Judge Hill, but I'm sure you'll keep me on my toes on that one. You can continue.
And so, Mr. Sprinkle, can you tell, well, first of all, I would, is State's Exhibit number 11 certified as the actual phone records from AT&T?
Well, there is a declaration of authenticity of business records affixed to the front of the records, so based on that, it would seem that these are authentic records from AT&T.
Okay. And at this time, Judge, understanding the rule, I would tender State's Exhibit number 11.
Okay, I think subject to the tying up that we discussed with Investigator Griffin, I will admit that.
Okay. Now, can you tell Judge McBurney, in synthesizing the records, I asked you very specifically to look for phone calls and communications between, well, strike that. Let me lay a little bit more foundation for you, Judge. During the course of the investigation, Mr. Sprinkle, into the death of Ms. Diane MacGyver, were you able to ascertain the telephone number for Claude MacGyver?
Yes, I was able to do that.
And explain to Judge McBurney how we did that.
Well, there was a number of ways that we did that. First of all, the Atlanta Police Department were able to determine that was his number because he actually called two detectives from that department shortly after the start of the investigation. He called a detective, Kevin Leampacker, and a detective, Darren Smith, the latter being the lead detective on the case, and he called them from his cell phone number, and we have the records for that number, and I've looked over those records, and I've confirmed that Mr. MacGyver did in fact place those calls to the aforementioned detectives. He also called another witness on the case, and that witness also confirmed that that was his number, and we, based on the cell phone number that we had determined belonged to Mr. MacGyver, we ordered his Apple iCloud account. And the way we did that was we asked Apple to return the iCloud account associated with that number being ending in 8137, and the iCloud account that we received was associated with Mr. MacGyver's law firm email address, and the content of the account otherwise indicated that it was in fact Mr. MacGyver. So we had a number of different metrics that we utilized, mostly though upon personal knowledge that the number ending in 8137 belonged to Mr. MacGyver.
Now, can you tell Judge McBurney, in viewing the records, were you able to determine how many telephone calls, if any, were placed between Mr. MacGyver and Ms. Tammy Johnson on Friday, April the 14th of 2017?
Well, there were two calls.
Before we go, is that the date of the search?
Yes, sir.
Where the weapon was purportedly discovered?
That's correct.
Okay.
The logs show that there were two calls. One was only a second long at about 3:31, so Realistically, it appears that there was really only one substantive call that lasted 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Ms. Johnson called Mr. MacGyver at 3:35 p.m. on Friday, April 14th. They spoke for 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
We have a second easel, maybe during the lunch break, you can ask Ms. Hansberry, but that one was a faulty flap we don't use
killing me.
anymore.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I don't know where the second one is, but we have it for the defense.
Okay. Okay. The first call lasted a few seconds. What time is it?
The first call that was only a second long, that was at 3:31 p.m. on Friday, April 14th.
And who called who?
Tammy called Tex, or Mr. MacGyver, the defendant.
Okay. And the second call?
That one, it was at 3:35 p.m., and that was Ms. Johnson calling the defendant. That call lasted 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
2 minutes, 10 seconds. Any other calls on Friday between the phone number that we will identify as Ms. Johnson's and the phone number for Mr. MacGyver?
Not on Friday.
Okay. Let's stay on Mr. MacGyver. How about Saturday phone calls?
There were phone calls on Saturday starting at 10:22 a.m. and extending through 4:11 p.m. that Saturday. There were a total of 4 phone calls. We'll start with 10:22 a.m.
Hold on 1 second. Okay, what was the first one?
The first phone call at 10:22 a.m., Mr. MacGyver, the defendant, called Tammy Johnson. They spoke for 1 minute and 57 seconds.
Okay, next one.
The next phone call was at 10:25, so just a few minutes later. Miss Johnson called Mr. MacGyver, and they spoke for 30 seconds.
Okay. Next one.
The next one was at 4:02 p.m. The defendant, Mr. MacGyver, called Miss Johnson. They spoke for 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Okay.
And then the final call from Saturday, April 15th, 2017. The defendant, Mr. MacGyver, called Tammy Johnson. They spoke for 8 minutes and 47 seconds.
I missed you. Tell me the time again.
The time was 4:11 p.m. on Saturday, April 15th. The defendant, Mr. MacGyver, called Tammy Johnson. They spoke for 8 minutes and 47 seconds.
Okay. How about Sunday?
On Sunday, there's a single phone call. The defendant, Mr. MacGyver, called Tammy Johnson. They spoke for 6 minutes and 21 seconds. This was at 4:23 p.m.
And who called who again?
The defendant called Tammy,
Okay.
Miss Johnson.
And how long was the call?
The call was 6 minutes and 21 seconds.
Okay. From Friday to Sunday, does that constitute the total number of calls between the number of the cell phone from Ms. Johnson and that of Mr. MacGyver?
It does.
And so in sum, we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 phone calls between the two during that time period, correct?
That's correct.
And were you able to calculate the total number of minutes and seconds that they talked?
That would have been about just over 15 minutes Friday and Saturday, and then about 21 and a half minutes if you're adding that Sunday call.
in total?
Yes, total.
21 and a half minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did I ask you to also do the same thing with respect to Mr. Maples?
Yes, you did. Mr. Maples, his phone number ends in 9314. And
Say it one more time for the judge.
Mr. Maples, Attorney Maples, his phone number ends in 9314. And I also looked over Ms. Johnson's records for calls to and from that number.
Okay. All right. Let's start on Friday, April the 14th. That's the date of the search at the condo. How many calls, if any, were made from Mr. Maples' phone to or from Ms. Johnson's phone?
Well, Mr. Maples, we're only referring to phone calls in which Mr. Maples called her.
I want to know anytime Mr. Maples and Ms. Johnson were communicating. You'll let us know who originated the call, but let's cover any communication between the two for the same 3 days, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, the first call was at 3:38. Well,
This was first. First, tell us the total number for Friday.
well, there was a call that morning before the search at 11:51 a.m. There was another call at 3:38 p.m. There was another call at 3:43 p.m. And then there was the last call that day took place at 8:34 p.m.
Say it again, please.
The final call on Friday, April 14th, between Ms. Johnson and Mr. Maples occurred at 8:34 p.m.
Okay. And if you would tell us who originated the call at 3:38.
Ms. Johnson.
To Maples. How long did it last?
That phone call at 3:38 lasted 2 minutes and 16 seconds.
Okay. How about the 3:43 call?
That
Who originated it?
Mr. Maples, he called Ms. Johnson. That call lasted 1 minute and 53 seconds.
Okay. 8:34.
Ms. Johnson called Mr. Maples. That call lasted 26 minutes and 1 second.
Hold on 1 second. 26 minutes.
Yes, 26 minutes.
I apologize, Mr. Rucker. Did you give us a time for the 11:51 a.m. call?
I didn't, but we can do it. Who originated that call?
That call, Ms. Johnson called Mr. Maples. That call lasted 36 seconds.
Can you tell Judge McBurney, were there any calls between Maples and Johnson on Saturday when she was at Legoland?
There were not.
How about Sunday?
There
She was
were-
at the daughter's house.
There were no calls between Ms. Maples or Mr. Maples and Ms. Johnson on Saturday. The next time they spoke on the phone was on Tuesday, the 18th.
And do you have, can you tell the judge who originated that call?
On Tuesday, the 18th?
Mhm.
Well, the first call that occurred that day was at 3:34
PM?
3:34 p.m. Ms. Johnson called Mr. Maples. They spoke for 5 minutes and 56 seconds.
5 minutes and what?
56 seconds.
Okay. Okay. And were you aware that the district attorney's office attempted, or actually did execute a second search warrant at the condo on or about Tuesday, April 18th?
Yes, I was aware of that.
And that search did not reveal that the gun was present?
That is my understanding.
And you did not find from Ms. Johnson's phone records that anywhere during this time frame she would have called myself or Mr. Abadi?
No, I pretty much went through every number that she called during that time frame, and I didn't see any calls to either you or Mr. Abadi.
Okay. And let me ask you this. Did you find any calls between Ms. Johnson and the Putnam County Sheriff, Howard Seal?
Well, no. The short answer to your question is no. The phone numbers that I have for the Putnam County Sheriff, which I actually found in the defendant's iCloud dump, or the extraction of his iCloud account from the Apple Corporation and his contact book, there were 4 numbers in there: his cellular phone number, his work number, a fax number, and a home number. None of those numbers appeared in Ms. Johnson's phone records.
Was Ms. Johnson's number in his iCloud account?
No, not the number that I have here.
Not the number you have there. Okay. Was that the only time that Ms. Johnson spoke with Mr. Maples on Tuesday, April 18th?
No, they spoke, let's see, they spoke at 4:26 p.m. and they spoke at 4:52 p.m. Looks like she tried to call him, or no, they did. There was a completed call at 4:52 p.m. So there were 2 other calls that day. The 4:26 p.m. call, Miss Johnson called Mr. Maples. They spoke for 28 seconds. And the last call on Tuesday at 4:52 p.m., Miss Johnson called Mr. Maples again. They spoke for 2 minutes and 3 seconds.
Okay. And of course, since that time, you've become aware that Ms. Johnson is represented by Mr. Nick Latito.
That's my understanding.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Sprinkle?
Mr. Sprinkle, I don't know whether you and I have met. My name is William Hill.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Just one question. Other than simply logging the time of calls and duration of calls, you have no information with reference to the substance of the conversations. Am I correct?
That's correct. These phone calls weren't recorded, or at least they weren't recorded to my knowledge. So no, I don't have the content of these phone calls, just merely, as you said, the date, time, and duration of the call.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Any redirect?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sprinkle. So, Mr. Rucker, we're going to need to stop in about 5 minutes. I don't know if you want to, not for the day, but I have regularly scheduled business I need to spend some time on. So I don't know if you want to get a few questions into a witness, or you have a...
The next witness would be Jane Calhoun. She's going to be
Okay.
much more than 5. Not much more, but
She'll be as
5.
long as the 2 sides need to take with her. I
Okay.
just wanted you all to understand the parameters we've got.
Yes.
Why don't we try to reconvene at 1:45? 1:45 back here. Please have whoever's next ready.
Yes, sir.
And if you would also, during the break, confer with the defense team so they're not caught flat-footed when you're done with your witnesses, and they're able...
Yes.
You don't need to tell them who you're calling. That's up to
Okay.
you. You do need to let them know I have 1 hour of witnesses left, or I'm gonna take the rest of the day, so you don't need to keep your witnesses hovering outside. Just courtesy to
I
defense
understand.
witnesses.
Yes, sir.
Let them know that. Anything logistically we need to talk about, Mr. Rucker?
No, sir.
Judge Hill, anything logistically?
No, Your Honor.
You'll have, after Mr. Rucker gives you his good faith estimate of how much more he has today, assuming he's ending today, you'll have, if you're going to present any witnesses, folks, so we can use as much of today as I can allocate.
Yes, sir. I'll be
Okay.
ready to go.
All right. Well, it would be helpful to me when we reconvene if we could start with an estimate of how much more is to go, because I need to find other blocks of time this week when we can all get back together. I know we're having to take this piecemeal, and I apologize for that, but this wasn't originally on my calendars. And so I'm happy to accommodate you all as best as I am able.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you leave your stuff here, that nothing else in court the rest of the day. I'll be doing some things back there, but
Very good.
you don't need to take anything with you you don't want to. I will ask that the two firearms be in a non-open space during the break.
Yes, sir.
All right? Thank you.